Hi everyone, this is Nikki Rowland for Hip Kit Club, and today I am making a layout using the fabulous October kits. So I have all of the kits to play with, the main kit, the pocket life kit, the embellishment kit, and also the colour kit too. And today I'm also playing along with the weekly sketch, and I'm using a cut file too, so one of the exclusive cut files, the pumpkin. So here's the sketch, and this is what I'm following today, and I'm planning to incorporate 3 pumpkins that I've cut from the cut file too, yeah, I'm just trying to work out which photos I should use. You see I have a massive stack of photos there ready for fall scrapbooking, and I thought I would just figure out which ones would work best. So I tried that black and white one, but no, I decided in the end to go for 2 smaller square ones. So I've already cut my pumpkin cut file 3 times on orange pattern paper, and it's a Pretty Little Studio one, and I've also backed them all using white cardstock as well. So they are individual pieces that I can overlap with each other and move around, and yeah, I just find that it's easier if they are backed, even in the white. It just makes things much easier. Okay, so I'm just one of my photos wasn't the right size, so I just wanted to make sure they were the same size, the same height. Doesn't matter about width, but I wanted them to be the same height. So I have cut one down and mounted it onto white cardstock to give it a white border, and then paper stereo. Basically, I have the same sized photos. Certainly, they work better together rather than one taller than the other. So on the sketch, there's these strips of kind of mixed media stripes on the right hand side, and I thought I would try to mimic these with torn pieces of pattern paper. So I have got one, or both of them are by Pretty Little Studio. One is that really beautiful text print that I love so much, and the other one is the Pretty Little Studio one with all the different colours on. It's really pretty, I love it. It's one of my favourite papers in this kit, and I thought I would try and have these torn pieces down the right hand side to represent those mixed media stripes. I've gone backwards and forwards with this, and I didn't actually end up using the torn pieces at all. I ended up cutting them so they're straight, but you'll see how I go with that. So before I get those stuck in place, I wanted to add some colour to my background, and I wanted a pale colour. I didn't want the really bright colours of the sprays from straight from the bottle. So I've just poured some onto the gold one. I've poured some onto my craft sheet, and I've added quite a bit of water so that I have a nice pale colour, so the yellow or the goldy colour there. So yeah, I just wanted it to be quite subtle, not to be overpowering. And then I'm arranging my torn strips on top again. So just adding a bit more colour because I hadn't gone far enough over. So yeah, so now I've got my background, the mixed media anyway, on the background. I'm now just trying to work out what to do with those stripes. I actually, as like I said, I end up cutting them so that they're straight. I really struggle to arrange them for some reason. They just don't look right with the torn. On the sketch, sorry, there was a strip, like a shelf, underneath the photos, and I decided to use my border punch to punch some pretty scallops for my photos to effectively sit on. That was my plan. So that's what I've cut those strips of the gingham paper over on the right, or the plaid paper on the right hand side. Those strips there are cut for that reason, to use with my border punch, and then, as I say, to make the strip that my photos are going to sit on. So I thought, if I cut 3 of them, then I can punch them all with my same border punch, and hopefully they'll all layer nicely on top of each other, and I'll have a nice chunky border for my photos to sit on. So that's what I've done there. So I'm just layering them all on top of each other. But actually, I'm really struggling with this design because I have a vertical strip and a horizontal strip, and for some reason it just doesn't work for me. I can't make that work. I don't like the crossover, it was just so obvious with the large torn strips, and then the long border punched piece. I just couldn't make this arrangement work. So I've really fiddled around with lots of different ways to do this. And I moved the papers around, and I moved the pumpkins around. But basically my problem is my border strips are too long at the moment. They're too long, and my pattern papers in the background are just too messy. The torn strips don't really work. So I decided to cut them all down. You've just seen me do that with that one. And I've distressed the edges instead. So they're straight, but they're still distressed. And I'm much happier with how that looks. So I'm just going ahead and doing that with the other papers that I want on the background as well. Then I'm distressing all the edges of those again and just getting those in place. So just I'm going to do some good so just going Sorry about that, I don't quite know what happened to the sound there, but hopefully things are sorted. Okay, so I'm just still trimming down those pieces of pattern paper so that they now have straight edges instead of being torn, and I'm distressing the edges of each one and then getting them stuck in place onto the layout as well. So there we go, I have 3 pieces of paper there, all in a row, representing those mixed media stripes on the background for the sketch. And then I know I'm including the pumpkins, and they totally weren't on the sketch, but I really wanted to use them, so I just made it work, really effectively made it work. So even though there wasn't really a place for them, I used them to kind of as part of my photo stack and as embellishments as well. So now I want to mount my photos in these frames. I love these gold frames, they're so gorgeous, but I didn't like the hang down, so I just wanted them to be mounted in the gold, just a small amount of gold. So I actually cut off those bottom pieces of the frames and then use them later elsewhere. Yeah, just still fiddling around with this background, trying to make the whole layout work. Really, I just really struggled. I just couldn't seem to get the pumpkins to work with the stripes in the background and the mixed media and the photos, and it was just a bit of a nightmare. It just wouldn't come together nicely. So yeah, I do get there eventually. So I'm just mounting the frames. So I cut the bottom parts off of each of the frames, the ones with the bits with the sayings on, and then I've put white cardstock behind the frames because my photos were just a tiny bit too small to fit inside, to go on the back of those frames. So I needed to put a mount on the back, and then I could stick my photos to something, and that worked really well. So that's how I got around that. So there we are, both photos now mounted onto the gold frames. I really love the gold. It's a bright, beautiful, shiny gold, and really lovely sayings on the frames as well. So it didn't really work with my layout this time to have the hang down bits, but I've cut them off and I will use them elsewhere. I'll use one on this layout and I'll probably use the other one somewhere else. Okay, so I'm kind of getting there with my layout now. So I've worked out that if I put the two pumpkins in the background behind the photos, then I can put the smallest pumpkin round to the front of my photos, and it kind of acts as a large embellishment, or certainly somewhere to put an embellishment cluster. So there we go. I'm so much happier with how that now looks. And also I figured out that my border strips were just too long. So I've cut those down, and they just sit underneath my photos, and that absolutely works perfectly well. So I've added some gold machine stitching through each of those distressed paper strips. I used gold thread and gold machine stitch through them twice, and then I have just got everything stuck in place, and I have fussy cut a whole ton of leaves from one of the Paige Evans papers and stuck them all under the photo. Sketch is coming together really nicely. Now, the problem with the sketch this week was that halfway through working on it, I realised that there was a recipe that I was supposed to include in my sketch. So there was a number of things that needed to be included. One was loving. Well, that was fine because I had a photo of me and my little boy, and I love him, so that was absolutely fine. Another one was purple. Again, absolutely fine because I have leaves everywhere. And then another one was apples, so I had to not forget about the apples. I had now pulled through some embellishments that had apples on them. And another one was a hint of spice. Well, that made my brain ache. I was like, what am I going to do for a hint of spice? Well, as it's only supposed to be a hint, I did go backwards and forwards with pumpkin spice and all of that, but they're really not pumpkin spice photos, so that didn't really work. And then I was going to go with sugar and spice and all things nice, or autumn spice, or whatever. Anyway, I couldn't think of anything that worked. So in the end, as it only has to be a hint, on that background paper, the one with all the text sayings on, right at the bottom, the word cinnamon appears. Cinnamon? Cinnamon. It is on the paper, and I'm going with that ticks the box for a hint of spice. Because it's only a hint, and the word cinnamon does appear on my layout, but it's very tiny. So anyway, I'm going with that and calling it done. So I did just about manage to make all of the elements for the recipe too. Okay, so I'm just going to sort out my title now. Everything's stuck in place. I'm really happy with how everything is looking, and I'm going for Hello Pumpkin for my title, and I was thinking hello at the top and pumpkin underneath, but pumpkin really didn't show up against the leaves and the border punch, so I moved the word hello up and put pumpkin at the top too, so you can see that there it's all done. So just adding some of the enamel dots. I say one of the prompts on the recipe this week was loving, so I thought I'd add in some more hearts and add to the whole loving theme. So yeah, got plenty of hearts in there. I'm sticking them down with glossy accents because the heart-shaped ones seemed to be less sticky than the circular ones for some reason, don't know why. But I've just thought I better stick them down with some enamel dots, with some glossy accents, so that they don't walk off my layout at some point too. So just adding in some final pieces of chipboard. So I really liked these crosses, so just putting those in place now. They remind me of like little stitches. So just getting those in place now. Oh, sorry, a little hand there appearing in my video there. I'm just getting in some final bits and pieces now. So going through that Pretty Little Studio Indian Summer ephemera, and just putting out a couple of bits that work well. So one says fall, one says love, there was something like say grateful on the tab, I think the blue tab behind the photo. So yeah, lots of lovely little sayings in that set of ephemera. So I just went through and worked out which ones would work for this layout. Okay, so I wanted to add some splatters to my background. I didn't do that to start off with because I wasn't sure how I wanted it to look, but actually I thought adding a few splatters over the yellow would work well. So I've just taken those directly out of the spray. I haven't watered it down, and I've just splattered those on liberally all around the yellow area. And then this is a piece of paper background that I made earlier. So this was for a previous layout and it just didn't work. So anyway, I didn't want to waste it, and so I've cut my layout down so that it fits within that frame. It's a double frame. And then I've added some gold machine stitching to the left hand side of the layout, and I've also gone through the letter stickers with machine stitching too, just to make sure that they don't walk off of my layout at some point. So there you go, that is my layout complete. Thank you so much for staying with me today and watching my video. Sorry about the sound problems halfway through. Yeah, that was Niki Rowland for Hip Kit Club. Don't forget to go and join in with the sketch challenge. Bye!